Now, Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
We are speaking with a great Canadian band, Honeymoon Suite. We've got, of course, Johnnie and Derry. They have a couple of new singles out. One came out last year, Tell Me What You Want, and Find What You're Looking For. And I have to say, guys, I love the songs, but I'm a fan. Everything you've ever done, I've loved. So, hey, it was an easy sell for me. But, Derry, let me start with you. In terms of putting out new music, you've gone the route of doing these two singles. Um, where are we in terms of making albums and making EPs? Are we sort of past that point where it's just a lot simpler and a lot easier for audience attention just to put out one song and focus on it?
Well, yeah, yes and no. A lot of bands are doing that, and it's almost, yeah, people don't have the attention span for a 10-song album like the old days. But in our case, we're totally moving towards a finished album, and our strategy is to put a couple of singles out as we go along the way to keep people engaged and give them a taste of what's to come. And our album is almost finished, actually, but because of the pandemic, we've had to put things on hold since March, and Johnnie and I are just waiting till this craziness is over because we're recording in England. And as soon as we can travel and get over there, we're going to get it done.
Oh wow. Okay, so I'll send this to Johnnie. I'll go back and forth between both guys. But why, Johnnie? Is the band recording in England? Is it because of a specific producer, a specific studio that has a sound you're looking for?
It's a
Um,
specific producer. The guy his name is Mike Krampus. We started out recording in Tennessee,
okay.
and we just went there on the fly, and it just connected. It was like five guys driving in the same car on the same on the same highway, and it worked out. So we continued on. Where Mike goes, we go.
We
So
go. Right.
that's the way it goes. And Mike has been great to us, and like it's just worked out. We want to finish this thing.
Listen, as a fan, I want you to finish it. So I'll ask you this, and I'll go to either one of you. But tell me what you want and find what you're looking for. To me, has a very modern feel to it, a very sort of rhythmic feel to it. I don't want to say well, it is sort of danceable. These are like danceable songs in a sense. Talk to me about that because it is, to me, a different approach to what you've done before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's totally intentional, and a lot of the sound of that is the credit goes to Mike, who's he's an older dude, but not as old as us. But he's from Canada, and he's a super fan. Like he knows our band. He grew up, learning guitar, learning my licks when he was a kid. So that's really cool. He knows what to do with our music. He's really familiar, and to me, that's important in a producer that he understands where you're coming from and then where you want to go. So we're bringing up in our basic ideas, our big choruses and that, and Mike just kind of sits down, and it's great having a producer because it's that objective ear. Because Johnnie and I live with our songs for so long, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, and Mike will come in with fresh ears and say, "This is really good, but why don't we try this, move this around, and like let's do a completely different rhythm here, chop and dice," and the end product we bring a song in that's maybe at this level, and then when it's done, it's way up here because we're all working together on it and giving it a contemporary sound, but still keeping it Honeymoon Suite. Does that make sense?
It makes
Yeah,
absolute
that
sense.
makes a lot of sense.
And that's what I'm hearing too. Now, let me quickly talk about that in terms of producers, because yesterday, for example, I was talking to John Petrucci of Dream Theater, and he's produced all of the Dream Theaters or a lot of the Dream Theaters and his solo albums. And he was saying, I don't really need outside ears because I know what I like and I know what the band needs. I've always felt you need outside ears. How important is it to have that perspective where somebody can come and say, hey, yeah, you know what, guys? Boy, it sounds great the way you did it, but here's another thought and another idea. I mean, how free is your producer to give you suggestions, to maybe suggest a new lyric and say, hey, maybe you should try doubling the guitars here? Or, how important is that?
Derry, you want me to take
Yeah,
that or?
yeah, take it, go for it.
Okay, first of all, Derry and I butt heads all the time when it comes to lyrics and melodies. It's just the way it goes. And sometimes I have my ideas, he has his. And now at this point with Mike, it's like so cool that I have this sort of judge in between. So it kind of like gives me my leeway, and it makes it between the two of us is, it's a great thing. So yeah, it's good to have a third ear.
Well, for us anyways, we've always needed a producer. I think our best records had great producers. I
Yeah.
love having that extra person in the room to kind of like be the sounding board, and mostly to be objective, is not so emotionally tied to the music as the band guys are.
Lyrically, is the band searching to say something different lyrically in terms of, social justice or COVID-19 or anything? Or do you just want to keep writing fun songs that are,
No, find what you're looking for. The newest single, there's no hidden agenda to the lyric. It's self journey, sort of inspirational. Get up off your ass, like do what you need to do. If you got something, hang on to it. Basically, and that is like somehow sustained with everything that's going on, with what's going on, and people like the track, and I can see it.
It's got a good uplifting message, and I think it's kind of relative for the time. That was just accidental that it came out now in the height of COVID. But we're not going to, start writing songs about COVID and all this. We write what we write. The bottom line is we take a song and just make that song great, whatever it's about.
whatever it's about. Let me go back into the past just for a little bit here and explore some of the music you've done previously. And I'll start off with The Big Prize. That album to me was one of the greatest Canadian albums ever made. I mean, when I look back to the 80s, I think Reckless, I think Big Prize, and those are just the ones that are like at the top. What was that one like, going in there, working with Bruce Fairbairn, bringing in Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, having Mickey Curry, who of course was in Hall & Oates, and Bryan Adams. Just talk to me a little bit about that experience. And we'll start with Derry.
Well, thanks for saying that. And that's one of my favorite records. I think sonically and production wise, it's probably our best album so far. Because working with Bruce and Bob Rock, I mean, it's one of those situations when we were at, everything was just, all cylinders were firing and things were just coming together. The writing was there, the production team was there, and that just, sometimes albums are like that. Things just kind of flow. And Bruce was the guy that I loved him because he was first and foremost a song guy. And he wouldn't let us go in the studio till the songs were written. And that's the way a producer should work. There's no sense in going into the songs are done, which is what he did. He worked us really hard, and Bob got the sounds, and the rest is history. Just bringing the right people in at the right time, and it shows.
It absolutely shows. And I'll throw this to Johnny. You had a chance to work at Little Mountain on this one. What was that like? Because here's a studio that was starting to punch out a lot of great stuff. You had Mark LaFrance that would show up and sing on everybody's records. You had Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, and of course the drum sound, right? The drum sound of Little Mountain, I should say. What was that like, and how much of that did you utilize in making the album? Like, how important was getting the drum sound, for example, of Little Mountain onto your?
I knew it was going to be great, but to me, it's everything about vocals, right? So Fairbairn would come to me and go, "Hey, where's the vocal on this?" So prior to him doing all the beds and the drums, Johnny, what are you singing? And I would sing it to him, and then I would not see him for days. So I would listen to what's going on. The whole process of the recording stuff is actually quite boring to me. I don't like it. I don't want to be in the studio. I don't want the noodling, all that sort of stuff. To me, it's all vocals. It's melodies, right? I've trusted Fairbairn. He did the greatest job. But at the end of the day, when I'm listening to everything that's going on in my headphones, it was like, this is so amazing that I could sing the track. It's like, wow, you give it all you got.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Well, okay, let me ask you this. Since you don't like the noodling in the studio, and I'll throw it to both of you, what is sort of the approach to making new music? Is it just get 4 guys or whatever, 5 guys in the
I'll
room, plug in.
I'll interject right now if you don't mind.
Go right
Okay,
ahead.
Mike Crumpus is a great guitar player,
Right.
and Derry is, a virtuoso. They're both great. So I'll be in the studio. We'll be working, right? And we'll be working on a song or something, and then they both got guitars in their hands, and then suddenly Derry will play something, and Crumpus will go, "What is that?" And then they'll go back and forth, and it'll be 20 minutes of freaking noodling chaos, and I have to leave. And it's like, okay, are you guys done? Okay, and then I come back. Vocals, guitars, like that's their thing. Like, that's the way it goes. But it's all love.
But also I was going to go further and saying how important then is it to get like an organic sound and not rely on auto tune and not rely on too much Pro Tools and not rely on all the studio trickery and just sort of get in, lay it down, go home.
Exactly, but we got a producer who keeps me singing the same thing over and over again. And it's kind of like, hey, look, guy. It's like, hey, Mike. Like I've just spent like the last 2 weeks learning this track. I'm a one-time two guy. Go record it, be done. And he's always trying to look for something more, right? And it's like, okay, keep going, pushing. And by the end of the day, it's like I got nothing left. And it's like, but I love him to death. It's like it's great. So there you go.
But the end result, listen to the vocal on Find What You're Looking For. I mean,
right.
He pushes and he pushes me too. And you hate the guy sometimes, but that's the way Fairburn used to be too. But at the end of the day, the result is there. He's particular. But in answer to your question about the recording process, even with all the Pro Tools and the digital and all that stuff, we're still recording organically with real drums, real bass. We're singing our harmonies. We're not auto-tuning a lot of stuff. Johnny doesn't need auto-tuning because he's on key almost 100% of the time. And Mike has got a lot of guitars that I can play, and my stuff. It's all organic. We're playing through amps, and it sounds like it. And because it's too much computer music out there. We're a rock band, recording like a rock band.
Which is what you should do. And I have to say, particularly Tell Me What You Want is definitely one of my favorite songs in the last 5 years. Once you hear it, it just stays in your head. It just I'm singing it to myself right now, actually, quite frankly. It just stays there.
Yeah, it's really cool. Just not to go on about that song, but there's a prime example of a song that is probably at least 2 years old. I started writing years ago. And then we've been demoing it for about the last year. When we started this record, we started with demos before we even picked up the mic. And once it went through the Mike Crumpus filter, the song, if you heard the demo and then you heard the finished product, it's almost two completely different songs. The lyric has improved 110%. It's got a different chorus. And that's what I'm talking about, a great producer. And he's also a writer. And I love when that happens. We just made it a way better song.
And it's a fantastic song, and hopefully the entire album is going to have this feel of these two songs. It's going to be a great album. But in terms of these two songs, they have, or at least Find What You're Looking For has put you back on the charts, on the indie charts, with your top 30, if not higher. I think top 20 even.
It's 26.
No, 26.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. So how important is that? Because I see the press releases come through, and it is being trumpeted. Hey, we're back on the charts. Ultimately, though, how important is it for you to be on the charts and have that in the back pocket and just say, well, okay, or just make a great song? I mean, is the charts?
It's something that you wish for. It's
Right.
something you don't expect. Like prior to all of this, we released 3 records. There's Clifton Hill, there's Hands Up, Lemon Tongue, that didn't do much, but here we are with a song that is charting. I mean, like I say, it's something that you wish for, but this is something that has actually happened. So we're quite ecstatic about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm going to ask you this because, listen, I have Lemon Tongue, I have all this stuff, but you're right. Some of those things didn't sell as well as we could have hoped for. What keeps the band going then? Why is Honeymoon Suite still around in 2020? Because you've had a few albums that didn't sell so well, but what keeps you motivated, keeps you going,
I think
keeps you
it's our
flying?
fan base. I know where you're going with this. I think it's our fan base. I mean, it's the fact that we go play and people are in front of us, and we've maintained current. All right, we've stayed and played. Kept writing and sending out songs, and I think it's our fan base. I mean, like the energy from the crowd to us has been huge. So that keeps us going, and we have much more to say. I mean, what can I say? It's all good.
It
Yeah.
is all good. Now, you, Johnny, you put out a solo record. I'm trying to think,
Uh, okay.
long time ago. What was that? Maybe this is the wrong word, but what was that about? Was that just sort
Okay,
of trying to say
tell
something that
you
you?
don't have to ask me or go any further. Derry moved to Illinois.
Right.
Okay,
It's all
and
Derry's fault.
no, it's not Derry's fault. It's just like it's just something that he
Right.
did. And I was working with another writer, and I had all these songs and ideas, and basically it was like just getting these songs together. We put it out with this other writer, and suddenly I had all these different things coming in, like to me saying, "Hey, put it out." And Derry's kind of like weirded out about it, which was kind of weird, but anyways, I did it and it worked, but I didn't go through with it, right? Just didn't work out for me.
Yeah, I had no issue with that at all. In fact, I encouraged him to do that.
Yeah,
Why
of course.
why
No,
would
you were pissed off.
uh, it wasn't at all because the stuff on there it really was not in the Honeymoon Suite wheelhouse, and I'm glad that you did that. And
Right.
I totally encourage that. There's a lot of bands that do that. You
Right.
know,
Well,
you're making music. You're being an artist, man.
okay, well, you know what killed it for me is the fact that this was a solo record, and then when I wanted to start doing shows, I would do some small shows, and instead of it saying Johnny DeJulie, which I wanted to get rid of
Right.
the Honeymoon Suite umbrella, it would say Honeymoon Suite when I got there, and I was like, no, this is not working. So
Yeah.
I had to kibosh that. They're
Right.
they're using Honeymoon Suite as for my solo record. It's just not cool.
Promoters, you gotta love promoters. But all right, so Derry, I'll ask you this
There you
because I have often said, Derry, that you are the Eddie Van Halen of Canada, and I mean that. I think your playing is on par. Have you ever thought of doing an instrumental album or a guitar-oriented album, just different from what Honeymoon Suite is, and just sort of wail and sort of Yngwie Malmsteen it?
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, that's quite a compliment, but there's only one Eddie. But
True.
I love playing as I do a lot of other players. But I've thought about that. But Honeymoon Suite is kind of been my solo project. And every time I would have the time to write an instrumental album, we start to get busy in the honeymoon camp again, and I'm concentrating on writing songs. But I've got little bits and pieces, because I listen to Satriani and all these guys. I think it would be fun to do a little instrumental album as a departure, and I'll probably get around to that someday.
Someday. Well, okay,
Yeah.
so then let me ask you that about the guitar parts in the Honeymoon Suite songs, because you could wail. I mean, you could go do the whole, guitar jack off thing and have a 4-minute solo, but you don't. You play for the songs, which is very
I
respectful.
don't let them.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so is that the process? Is it sort of Johnny going, "Hey, stop it," or do you say, "No, no,
Yeah,
no, I've got to
hey,
play for the
Johnny, when it
song"?
comes to the record, it's like, stop it. Like, we're not going this far. Like, you want to do that sort of stuff? Not in this band. Okay, I know that sounds awful, but I just wanted you guys are starting to noodle, and it's
Right.
okay, whatever. Go on,
Let me
keep going.
just say this: that a solo to me has got to speak to you just like the vocal does.
Thank
And
you, Derry.
there's plenty of kids. There's like kids out there that can play circles around me, in their sleep, and it's incredible the amount of guitar players out there. But to me, it's not about a million notes a second. It's about what the notes do and where they're placed. So I do spend a lot of time on my solos because after you hear Johnny sing second chorus, when the lead comes in, I want those 8 bars to really be memorable. I want them to speak and to have some humor. So it's important to me to do a solo, whether it's a lot of notes or a few notes, they got to be in the right place. They have to speak, and that's the way I kind of approach it.
Right. You've got to play for the song. And well, I'll start wrapping up on this, but a lot of the people that follow me personally are Americans, and they're not as familiar with Honeymoon Suite as I am. So let's just quickly for them tell them the story of New Girl Now. That is one story that one song that is sort of every American knows from Honeymoon Suite. What was the story on that one? And remind me, who did you tour with in '84 in the States? Was it Foreigner?
Jethro
No,
Tull.
Jethro Tull.
I think that was the first.
Yeah, so talk to me just quickly for the Americans that are watching us. What's the story on New Girl Now? How important was it for you? What did it do for you in the States? Just the whole sort of spiel.
I can start. I hope
Yes.
that Derry will interject. I met
Yes.
Derry. I met Derry. I picked him up from a rehearsal hall, and we were listening to some of his songs that he had recorded. And this one song, "New Girl Now," was something that he played to me. I think it may have been in my car, and it was like, I got to sing this track. That was New Girl Now. So New Girl Now got recorded, got sent to a radio station, and this is after we got together and started playing live and having people come and see our band. Love the track, of course. That was Q107 Toronto, and it took off from there. Derry, please interject. I mean, like after that, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, once Warner Brothers came into the picture, it was like we recorded like 4 tracks after that. But Derry was the first one to come up with New Girl Now. I just had to say.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you this, Derry. What was the song written for? If you weren't really in a band yet, were you sort of sending it out to different guys and hoping that Bryan Adams and Gowan would pick it up, or were you writing it for yourself? And where did it come from?
No, I wasn't sending anything out. I wrote that when I was in college a few years before I met Johnny. It was just a quick track that I wrote amongst many others. And I I moved to Toronto and played with some other bands, and I met Johnny. And in the beginning, we were a cover band playing 6-nighters up in Northern Ontario, playing all these cheesy hits. But we'd sneak in New Girl Now and maybe Stay in the Light and some of these songs that end up in the first record. So when I knew that Johnny and I knew that we had the goods to get a deal, so we were just biding our time playing these covers. But what was important is these original songs. So New Girl Now started to sound really good. It suited his voice. So that and then it just got a reaction. And then the Q107, it just started a whole sequence of events to get that one song on the radio, and a lot of things happened quickly. Song, man.
Is it fair to say then that if Q107 hadn't spun the song, you might not be here today as Honeymoon Suite? Like they sort of but they put you on the map?
Well, that's the power of radio. No,
right.
We've gotten a deal.
Right.
We were because we had a manager. I knew that we were going to get a deal. It was just a matter of time. But the Q thing got us on the radio really early on. And all of a sudden you had airplay, and that is huge for an unknown band. And it just moved the whole process up. Once it hit we had people.
Sorry?
Are you still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Okay. Sorry, my phone's going.
Just cutting in and out.
We had all the labels coming out and checking us out. So it just moved things along really.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly say this on cutting out on Skype. If 2 or 3 people talk, it seems to jump the signal in a sense. But I'll finish. I'll finish on this since we don't want to have a jumpy audio and stuff. But how exactly then did you get the deal? Was it a competition between Sony and Warner and EMI and a whole bunch of people, or did just sort of one guy? Is there one guy that said, "Hey, I'm your guy. You're signing with me. Let's go"?
Bob Roper.
Yeah. So there you go.
The A&R guy. Back then it was called We A Canada. And we had the Canadian labels come out, but Bob Roper said this, this is it. We want to do the deal with you guys. You're going to sign with WEA. And then subsequently after that, we had a showcase at a club, and all the people from Warner, Elektra, and Atlantic showed up to the bar that night. Unbeknownst to us, all the A&R guys came to check out our band. And then we got the deal, with Warner in the States after that.
And here we are. How many years later are we? 30, 36 years later? Something like
35
that?
or 35 or so. So yeah.
Yeah, let's have a quick look. Honeymoon Suite, the first one was
Okay.
84. The first one was 84, so 36 years.
Yeah, man.
And you must have formed before. Were you a band in 83?
Johnny started it. Would you start
Wow.
at Johnny 83?
Wow.
80. I started in 81.
80?
Wow. So next year there's going to be a room for a 40th anniversary celebration. I'm thinking Bob said in tours, come on.
Oh, it-
You're going to have to on
Oh,
that
good now.
40 years. Oh boy. Johnnie and Derry, always a pleasure. The two new songs, well, Tell Me What You Want is from 2019, but the new one is Find What You're Looking For, both available on streaming services, Apple Music, the whole kit and caboodle. New album coming out, I guess, soon, hopefully. And does it have a title yet, by the way, the album?
No, it doesn't. It won't be till I can get back out there and finish these vocals, which the next thing everybody's asking, what are you going to do next when this COVID thing hopefully blows over? I'm getting on a plane. I'm going to finish these vocal tracks. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, that's the way to go. And there he goes. Johnnie and Derry, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup, as we say in Montreal.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Always
thanks.
un
Thank
plaisir.
you.
Good talking with you again.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, hold on a second.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop these
Where-
recordings. There we go.